Freestyle dimension, alien flow.
Illuminated pyramids, the pharaoh of the bricks, the dope fiends fix, the crack pipes, the devil's kiss, black market hieroglyphs engraved in the forefist, was crucified to the cross, now I got holes in my wrist, the old jam in my piss, and yeah, I still blow pip, I follow Christ's footsteps with a loaded gun on my hip, William Cooper, #1 on the feds list, it's a blessing I still exist, unaffected by the microchip, digital terrorists, study Saddam's blueprints, my face carved in the Sphinx, pen tablets and holy ink, pour out liquor before I drink, the end games are just a blink, watch blood off in the sink, no I ain't going to the clinic, it's like armed robbery, the way they rewrite history, spit in the face of poverty, ain't nothing lied to me to see it for diaries, mass murder and piracy, it's time to wake up the zombies with the visions of Gandhi.
Illuminati! Oh, shit! And you thought it was over? Welcome to my special holiday show. But if you would come over here trying to get entertained, if that's what you're seeking is entertainment, I'm going to remind you again, get the fuck out. This ain't for entertainment. Many of you keep coming to my channel, this one in particular, bitching and complaining that you want me to talk about everything going on in Hollywood. This ain't the channel, idiots, morons. Every day, you're reinforcing in my head that what the Illuminati think of you is right. You're a bunch of animals. You're cattle. Everything they say about you is the truth, apparently. If you want my insights on entertainment, go to Hollywood God. But if you're here on Illuminati God, sorry. Man, I got so many accounts. Yeah. Just making sure. I got so many fucking accounts and channels and shit. I don't even know what fucking channels I'm on usually. But Illuminati God here is for education purposes. If you want to see me talk about celebrities and entertainment, movies and shit, go to Hollywood God. But here is educational purposes. So, without further ado, I'm going to start reading chapter 1 of Illuminati, by Myron Fagan. The history of the world's most secretive organization and their plans for humanity. This is in book form. There is an audio here on YouTube, unless they censored it out and deleted it. But there should be various recordings produced by Anthony Hilder with somebody narrating. I forgot the name of the person that's narrating. But I decided to get it in book form because it sinks into your brain more if you're reading it. And you're lucky that I can read it for myself, but you can also enjoy it. And you don't have to read it. All you got to do is listen to me. Illuminati. In 1967, Myron Fagan released a 3 LP set titled Illuminati. This book is a transcript of that recording. And I tell you guys all the time, the day will come that the powers that be and their minions, their acolytes, their initiates are going to use some excuse, UFOs appearing out of nowhere, terrorist activity going on, a nuclear war, to take away your freedom of thought, your freedom of speech, anything that they think is anti their rule, they're going to do. And I tell you all the time, they're getting you hooked up on everything digital because it'll be easy to take it away from you. You got to get the physical media. You got to get it physically. And even then, you're not safe. You got to keep these in secret. You have to hide these things because you seen that movie V for Vendetta? Motherfuckers were hiding their belongings in secret fucking secret tunnels and fucking secret vaults and in their basements and shit because they weren't allowed to have shit. That's gonna happen for real. Myron Fagan reveals the plot for global enslavement launched 2 centuries ago by Adam Weishaupt, an apostate Catholic priest who financed, let me repeat that part, because there are a lot of you out there that think Catholicism has nothing to do with this shit. But it does. An apostate Catholic priest who financed by the house of Rothschild created the organization which he named the Illuminati or Illuminati. Fagan describes how this group has been used by the Rothschilds to work towards a world government and how every war during the past 2 centuries has been instigated by them. In short, this is the fascinating, horrifying, and factual story of the most sensational plot in the history of the world. The author gives names, dates, organizations, modes of operations, all exposing the satanic octopus that to this day seeks to strangle the world in its grip. This book exposes the entire history of the plot, the Rothschilds, Zionism, criticizing Israel, this is coming from me, is an American right. Don't be afraid to talk about these people and their beliefs. It is your right. Don't let assholes like Trump scare you into being called anti-Semitic. He's their puppet, just like Biden was, just like Obama was, just like George W. was. They're all puppets, and they do what their master tells them to do. The Luciferian ideology. And if you watched enough of my videos on this channel, you should know what that is. The destruction of national sovereignty and religions. The role of Freemasonry. The Illuminist banksters and media. And the plans for 3 world wars. And if I was you, I wouldn't include World War I, World War II. Maybe the 3 world wars are coming. You ever thought about that? Now, I'm going to start reading chapter 1 of this, but I'll be the first one to tell you I skimmed through the book. There are some questionable things I don't agree with. The person who published this also decided to print some memes around the paragraphs and the chapters and the pages. I think they were trying to be funny. But I'm not gonna, but I don't think it was appropriate to put memes. But I understand why they did it. The majority of you are children mentally. You were brought up on the internet. You only understand memes. You're exactly the way the powers that be want you. Stupid! So this guy thought he had to put some memes on there, to make it easier for those of you who are dumb as hell to understand. Second thing I gotta say, Myron Fagan has also done, that way you don't get surprised when you discover it. If you do any research and you find some other shit he wrote, I'm gonna be straight up with you. The guy also wrote other books and pamphlets on race and the racial things that are going on in this country. Okay? These pamphlets and books have been attributed to him as well. So I don't know. I say read everything, and whatever you want, whatever you think is the real deal. You got to be careful. I always tell you guys to be careful. Be careful who you listen to. Be careful what you read. Be careful who you believe. This is the age of deception. You can't even believe what you see anymore. Now you understand it, huh? AI? Anybody? Now, AI, like anything else, can be used for good and it can be used for bad. I'm not going to just throw away AI with the bathwater. Okay? Just because there are some sons of bitches using it for evil means. There's always going to be a son of a bitch. There's always going to be an asshole who's going to abuse the new technology. What we got to do is use AI for what we feel we got to do. For instance, I'm using AI to reveal these bastards when I can. So, but be aware that the purpose for this AI going on today is so that when real shit starts happening, nobody's going to believe it. They're going to say it's AI. I know the deception. I know how these bastards work. When you least expect it is when they pull their stunts. So be careful, especially now during the Christ Mass season. A lot of you out there don't even understand the things you celebrate. It's Christ Mass, the Mass of Christ. And when you go around saying Merry Christ Mass, Mary is really Mary. Merry is really Mary. Merry Christ Mass, the Mass of Mary and Christ. You got to pay attention with the words you use, the things you say. Holy holidays, right? Holidays are holy days. It's all religion. It's all religion. They disguise their beliefs and their religion in these so-called holidays or holy days. You think that January 1st is the new year. Not to the powers that be. The equinox in March, that is their January 1st. That's their new year. And they're the ones pulling the strings. They're the ones making things happen, the movers and the shakers. So I'd be more worried what they're deciding to do, what they're going to do. And if you don't think I'm telling the truth, go back and read that Nostradamus, who was one of them. Nostradamus was an initiate. He wasn't a prophet. He was an initiate of the mystery religion. That was his job. To come up with these so-called quatrains. Go read again the quatrain talking about in the new millennium. But read it understanding that to them, the new millennium began in March 2001. You count 7 months after. From March to September, you get 7 months. Now, his so-called prediction makes more sense, doesn't it? I'll begin with chapter 1. Question everything and everyone. Oh boy. Huh. All right. Let me see. I guess I got to go to page 11. I don't know if I should read the introduction or not, because I'm not sure Myron Fagan wrote it. Please bear with me. This was a spur of the moment stream. I didn't even know I was going to do this. All right, I'm just going to start the chapter because I'm not sure he wrote that introduction. The question of how and why the United Nations is the crux of the great conspiracy to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of the American people. You know, to show you that it's everywhere, I was watching that Batman Returns again last night. And Christopher Walken's character, in case you didn't know, was based on Trump's father. And his son, Christopher Walken's son in the movie is supposed to be Trump. Young Trump. And young Trump comes up in there and he says, let's bring joy to the masses. Y'all better wake up. These people ain't playing. These motherfuckers are socialists through and through. Zionism is socialism, just like Nazism is. The reason for this lack of awareness of the frightening danger to our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this great conspiracy have absolute control over all of our mass media, especially television, radio, the press, and Hollywood. We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon, the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage the news and to tell us not the truth, but what they want us to believe. They have seized that power on orders from the masters of the great conspiracy, and the objective is to brainwash the people into accepting the phony peace bait, to transform the United States into an enslaved unit of the United Nations world government. First of all, bear in mind that the so-called UN police action in Korea, in which 150,000 of our sons were murdered and maimed, was part of the plot. Just as the undeclared by Congress war in Vietnam, remember this book came out in the 60s and the 50s. This came out in the 60s and 70s, in which our sons are dying now, is part of the plot. However, the vitally important thing for all Americans to know, all you mothers of the boys who died in Korea and are now dying in Vietnam, and you wait till this war in the Middle East starts up big time, full tilt boogie, you're going to lose your sons and daughters again in a war is that our so-called leaders in Washington, who we elected, more like selected, you might have elected them, you might have, but they were selected to safeguard our nation and our Constitution, are traitors. Let me read that again. Is that our so-called leaders in Washington who were elected to safeguard our nation and our Constitution are traitors. And that behind them are a comparatively small group of men whose sole objective is to enslave the whole world of humanity in their satanic plot to establish a world government. Now, in order to give you a very clear picture of this conspiracy, I will go back to its beginning, to the middle of the 18th century, and introduce to you the men who put that plot into action. And then we will travel to the present, to the current status of the plot. Now, as a matter of further intelligence, a term used by the FBI, let me clarify the meaning of the term liberal. The enemy meaning the one world conspirators, have seized upon the word liberal as a cover for their activities. It's now remember that this was published sometime in the 60s. Okay? Correlated what's going on today. The enemy, meaning the one world conspirators, have seized upon the word liberal as a cover for their activities. It sounds so innocent and so humanitarian to be liberal. Well, make sure that the person who calls himself a liberal or is described by others as a liberal is not in reality a Marxist. Now then, this satanic plot was launched back in the 1760s when it first came into existence under the name Illuminati. This group was organized by one Adam Weishaupt, a Jew who converted to Catholicism, just like Nostradamus did, in case you didn't know, and became a Catholic priest. So for those of you who believe that the Catholic Church has been untouched, that they have nothing to do with this, nope. They've been infiltrated a long time ago. Now you know why these bastards wear yarmulkes, why the Pope wears a yarmulke, why the bishops wear yarmulkes. They don't control shit. They've been infiltrated a long time ago. A Jew who converted to Catholicism and became a Catholic priest, and then, at the behest of the House of Rothschild, defected and organized the Illuminati. Naturally, the Rothschilds financed that operation, and every war since then, beginning with the French Revolution. And you better study the French Revolution, because they always use that script. They always have it's always the same shit. The haves versus the have-nots. Here in my neck of the woods, there are people with money buying property, buying houses. Even though they got 2 or 3 houses already, they buy one at the shore. And the excuse is capitalism. The excuse is, well, the freedom to buy. That's all fine and dandy. But it shouldn't be like that. Because in the same damn country, we have mad homelessness. And yet these people are buying 3, 4, 5 houses. Now I understand why this is going on. It's all being done on purpose. It's all being done by design. Because they want a revolution. They encourage capitalism so that they can then react with socialism. Without capitalism, socialism can't get a foothold. So they use capitalism in disgusting, ridiculous ways, letting these bastards buy 5, 6 houses, saying it's their right, it's their freedom. Some of these motherfuckers are the same liberals that complain about the homelessness, yet they got 5, 6, 7, 8 houses, and they're not letting any homeless live with them. You see the hypocrisy? So be aware of revolution, the French Revolution. Study the French Revolution. Study the revolutions that eventually caused World War I and II. Find out how these motherfuckers work, because they're doing it again over here. Beginning with the French Revolution, has been promoted by the Illuminati, operating under various names and guises. I say under various names and guises because after the Illuminati was exposed and became notorious, Weishaupt and his fellow conspirators began to operate under various other names. In the United States, immediately after World War I, they set up what they called the Council on Foreign Relations, commonly referred to as the CFR. This CFR is actually the Illuminati in the United States. The masterminds in control of the original Illuminati conspirators were foreigners. To conceal that fact, most of them changed their original family names to American-sounding names. For example, the true name of the Dillons, Clarence and Douglas, once Secretary of the U.S. Treasury Department, is Leposky. I'll come back to this later. There is a similar establishment of the Illuminati in England, operating under the name of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. There are also secret Illuminati organizations in France, Germany, and other nations operating under different names. And you shouldn't be surprised if Germany. All these organizations, including the CFR, set up numerous subsidiary or front organizations that are infiltrated into every phase of the various nations' affairs. At all times, the operations of these organizations were and are masterminded and controlled by the internationalist bankers, and they in turn were and are controlled by the Rothschilds. See, you hear about the puppets. You hear about the Bidens and the Bushes and the Trumps. These are just the puppets that take the fall. If things go downhill, if the plan, the agenda doesn't work, the puppets take the fall. But the Rothschilds are still there. The Rockefellers are still up there. And they're not the only ones. Oh, you'll be surprised how many families there are, how many bloodlines exist. Let me take a little break here. I need some water.
You know what I mean? Ladies is eyeing this shit. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, come here, girl. Look, don't you know? The Lord's lips to my ears, the mission is clear. Jab the ice pick into the kick and the snare. Trample the sample, give a fuck if it's cleared. Slice the throat of the chorus, then vanish in thin air. The alphabet chemist flatline you with a sentence. Prophet of the park benches, distribute knowledge in the trenches. Every rhyme's a lesson, a pen and a pad, and your career's defenseless. Don't live in the past, that only limits your future. William Cooper, verbal sharpshooter.
All right, let me continue. One of the prime agents in this control is through the International Bar Association. Let me read this quote, though. I got to read this quote. Here's a quote by Nathan Rothschild. Open up your ears. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. That's Nathan Rothschild. One of the prime agents in this control is through the International Bar Association and its splinter groups, such as the American Bar Association. There are bar associations in nearly every nation worldwide pushing the UN. One branch of the Rothschild family financed Napoleon. Another branch of the family financed Britain, Germany, and the other nations during the Napoleonic Wars. Immediately after the Napoleonic Wars, the Illuminati assumed that all the nations were so destitute and so weary of wars that they would be glad for any solution. So the Rothschild stooges set up what they called the Congress of Vienna. And at that meeting, they tried to create the first League of Nations, their first attempted one world government, on the theory that all the crowned heads of European governments were so deeply in debt to them that they would willingly or unwillingly serve as their stooges. But the Tsar of Russia caught the stench of the plot and completely torpedoed it. The enraged Nathan Rothschild, then the head of the dynasty, vowed that someday he or his descendants would destroy the Tsar and his entire family. His descendants did accomplish that very threat in 1917. And let me remind you who don't know, Tsar is just another way of saying Caesar in Russian. The Tsar is the Caesar. So the more than likely, the Tsar, one of the puppets, he thought that he had so much power that he no longer had to take orders. Same thing Hitler did. See, these dictators get to a certain point of power that they think they become untouchable. But you can't get out of the clutches of master. Oh no. Hitler tried. They still got him. And they got the Tsar as well. At this point, bear in mind that the Illuminati was not set up to operate on a short-term basis. Normally, a conspirator of any type enters into a conspiracy with the expectation to achieving his objective during his own lifetime. You might be wondering how they do this. How they can bring down a Hitler. Same way they propped them up. The people around Hitler don't follow his orders anymore. Purposely sabotage things. Same thing happened to the Tsar. Same thing happens to these celebrities that die mysteriously. The people that protect you are your killers. The people around you that you think are loyal to you, they're not. P. Diddy learning that now. But that was not the case with the Illuminati. True, they hoped to accomplish their objective during their lifetime, but the show must go on, and the Illuminati operates on a long-term basis. Whether it will take scores of years or even centuries, they have committed their descendants to keep the pot boiling until their goals are achieved. Now, let's go back to the birth of the Illuminati. Now, if you've been watching my videos long enough, the whole Mystery Babylon series, you should know by now that there was no birth of the Illuminati. This has been a plan for a long time. So when Myron Fagan talks about the birth of the Illuminati, what he's talking about is Weishaupt's brotherhood. Okay? That's what he's talking about. Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit-trained professor of canon law teaching in Ingolstadt University when he defected from Christianity to embrace the Luciferian conspiracy. And don't get too upset and offended by that, because the reality is, Luciferianism been in Christianity since the day it was created. Christianity is not what Jesus taught. There is no Christian denomination on the face of the earth today that actually teaches and follows what Jesus taught. You better understand that. It was in 1770 that the professional moneylenders, the then recently organized House of Rothschild, retained him to revise and modernize the age-old protocols of Zionism, which from the outset was designed to give the synagogue of Satan, so named by Jesus Christ, and who are them which say they are Jews and are not. Let me read that again, baby. See, y'all read the Bible up and down, but you don't understand the Bible. That's the problem. You read it already with your agendas in place of what you accept, what you believe. And so when you read the Bible, you warp it to mean what you already decided it means. You need to stop doing that. It was in 1770 that the professional moneylenders, the then recently organized House of Rothschild, retained him to revise and modernize the age-old protocols of Zionism, which from the outset were designed to give the synagogue of Satan, so named by Jesus Christ, and who are them which say they are Jews and are not. Revelation 2:9. Total world domination, so that they could impose their Luciferian ideology upon what would remain of the human race after the final cataclysm brought about through their use of satanic despotism. Weishaupt completed his task on May 1st, 1776, which is why May 1st is such a great day for all the communist nations. May 1st is also Law Day, according to the American Bar Association. The celebration of May 1st, Baal, Beltane, goes much further back into history than this. The day was picked for ancient reasons, which come from the pagan worship of Baal and Satan. What's the name of one of the most popular actors in Hollywood right now? Christian Bale? You better ask somebody. I wonder whose side he's on. I wonder if that's even his real name. Because in case you didn't know, a lot of the celebrities that are working in Hollywood, just like the newscasters, that's right, just like your local newscasters, use bullshit names. The celebrities do too. I wonder what Scarlett Johansson's real name is. I wonder who Ryan Reynolds, what his real name was. Or is. You better ask somebody. And it's perfectly legal. Just like the porn stars. The porn stars, those aren't their real names. Y'all better start waking the fuck up. Yeah, it's too late for y'all. That was the day, May 1st, 1776, that Weishaupt completed his plan and officially created the Illuminati, or his branch of it. Weishaupt's plan called for the destruction of all governments and religions. The objective was to be achieved by dividing the masses. There's that word masses again. The masses of people who Weishaupt called Goyim, nations, or human cattle, into opposing camps on political, social, economic, and other issues in ever increasing numbers. These are the very conditions we have in our country today. The opposing sides were then to be armed and incidents provided which would cause them to fight and weaken themselves, and gradually destroy national governments and religious institutions. Wow! What's going on today, y'all? Huh? Nothing new under the sun, is there? Whether it's the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Again, I say these very conditions exist in the world today. And now let me outline a primary feature of the Illuminati plans. When and if their blueprint for world control, the protocols of the elders of Zion, is discovered and exposed, they would wipe all the Jews off the face of the earth in order to divert suspicions from themselves. Let me read this again. All you non-religious Jews in Hollywood, in the government, listen again. You're always the scapegoats, and you're always going to be the scapegoats. You think you're going to be living large, or you might be for a little while. Listen once more. When and if their blueprint for world control, the protocols of the elders of Zion, is discovered and exposed, they would wipe all the Jews off the face of the earth in order to divert suspicions from themselves. Are you listening, Israel? If you think this is far-fetched, bear in mind that they permitted Hitler, a liberal socialist, a liberal socialist, a liberal socialist, and who was financed by corrupt Kennedys, the Warburgs, and the Rothschilds, to incinerate the Jews. Now, just why did the conspirators choose the word Illuminati as the name for their satanic organization? Weishaupt himself said that the word is derived from Lucifer and means holder of the light. He said this even as he told the world that his objective was to bring about a one-world government to enable those with mental ability to govern the world and prevent all wars in the future. In short, using the words peace on earth. And you thought that was something people said during Christmas time. Look who it came from. In short, using the words peace on earth as his bait, exactly as the same idea of peace was used by the 1945 conspirators to force the United Nations on us. Why shop? Financed by the Rothschilds, recruited some 2,000 paid followers. And let me stop right here. A lot of you, when you hear about Illuminati, Freemasonry, whatever name it's called, it's all the same shit. Socialists, communists, fascists, they're all part of the same club. Really don't realize that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people who are involved in these secret societies around the world. It's not just a handful of them. There are hundreds of thousands of people working for the achievement of this goal. You gotta understand that. This ain't gonna be an easy war. Especially if they have the means to enslave you. This ain't gonna be a walk in the park. A lot of you out there talk about, I got my weapons. Okay. I got the training. I know how to survive in the wilderness. Okay. It ain't gonna be easy. They're buying up the wilderness so that y'all can't flee into the woods and try to be survivalists. Where the hell are you gonna go? You better wake the fuck up, and you better have enough bullets. You might have every gun under the sun. Do you have enough bullets for those guns? See, this is what I'm trying to make y'all understand that this isn't gonna be easy. Oh boy. These included the most intelligent men in the field of arts and letters, education, the sciences, finance, and industry. He then established lodges of the Grand Orient, Masonic lodges, to be their secret headquarters. In all of this, he was acting under orders from the House of Rothschild. The plan required his Illuminati to use monetary and sexual bribery to obtain control over people in high places in the various levels of government and other fields of endeavor. Once influential people had fallen for the lies, deceits, and temptations, they were to be held in bondage by application of political and other forms of blackmail, threats of financial ruin, public exposure, and fiscal harm, even death to themselves and members of their families. In today's social media world, it's called cancellation. You're canceled. Do you realize how many top officials in our present government in Washington are controlled in just that way? Do you realize how many in our State Department, the Pentagon, all federal agencies, even the White House, are controlled that way? Illuminati agents in the faculties of colleges and the universities were to cultivate students possessing exceptional mental ability, belonging to well-bred families, well-bred families, well-bred families. For those of you who think the Illuminati isn't racist, you got a big surprise coming to you. For all you blacks and Hispanics that secretly are part of the agenda of the Illuminati, the New World Order, you have a big surprise coming to you. You're on the list, just like the rest of us. I don't care who the fuck you are. If you black and Hispanic, you are going to be exterminated. Make no mistake. Belonging to well-bred families with international leanings, and recommend them for special training in internationalism. Such training was to be provided by granting scholarships to those selected by the Illuminists. That gives you an idea what a Rhodes Scholarship means. It means indoctrination into the idea that only a one-world government could put an end to reoccurring wars and strife. That is how the United Nations was sold to the American people. All such scholars were to be persuaded and convinced that people of special talent and brains have the right to rule those less gifted, on the grounds that the masses, that's you and me, don't know what is best for them, fiscally, mentally, or spiritually. And I don't know if that's a typo. I don't know if they meant physically, mentally, or spiritually. In addition to the Rhodes and similar scholarships today, there are 3 special Illuminati schools located in Gordonstown in Scotland, Salem in Germany, and Anavarita in Greece. These 3 are the known ones, but there are others that are kept undercover. Prince Philip, the husband of Britain's Queen Elizabeth, was educated at Gordonstown, as also was Prince Charles. At the instigation of Lord Louis Mountbatten, his uncle, a Rothschild relative, who became Britain's admiral of the fleet after World War II ended. All influential people who came under the control of the Illuminati, plus the students who had been specially educated and trained, were to be used as agents and placed behind the scenes of all governments as experts and specialists. So they would advise the top executives to adopt policies which would, in the long run, serve the plans of the Illuminati, bring about the destruction of the governments and religions they were elected or appointed to serve. Do you know how many such people operate in our government at this very time? Rusk, McNamara, Hubert Humphrey, Fulbright, Kuchel, and the list goes on and on and on. And remember that this book, or rather, yes, this came out in the 60s. Perhaps the most vital part of Weishaupt's plan was the directive to obtain absolute control of the press, which at that time was the only mass media, to distribute information to the public so that all news and information could be slanted, so that the masses, that's you and me, could be convinced that a world government is the only solution to our many and varied problems. Do you know who owns and controls our mass media? I'll tell you. Practically all the movie lots in Hollywood are owned by the Lehmans, Goldman Sachs, Kuhn, Loeb, and Company, and other internationalist bankers. So when you hear all this nonsense going on today about Netflix buying WB and Paramount doing a hostile takeover, it doesn't matter. It's all bullshit. These fucking people are all interrelated. It doesn't matter who gets WB in the long run. Matter of fact, I guarantee you that's already been decided. It doesn't matter who takes it over. It's all the same goddamn shit. It's always the same players involved. If Netflix owns it, Netflix follows the agenda. If Paramount takes it, Paramount still follows the agenda. If Amazon comes out of nowhere and decides to outbid everybody, Amazon follows the agenda. Well, I'm going to stop right here. It's been an hour. I will continue at some point because there are other books I want to continue. We still have to finish the Cathars book. Don't think I forgot about that one. Oh, boy. So there you go, y'all. As I said earlier, y'all got to be careful during this holy day season. You're going to see a lot of so-called attacks, a lot of lone nuts attacking, a lot of wars and rumors of wars. Be careful. Take care of you and yours. Because these bastards, at any moment, could do something.
Where they try their best to keep the population asleep. They poison our food and water and they offer us war, but we're not falling for their parlor tricks, not anymore. We walked through the door and let our chains drop to the floor. There's many areas in this life that we got to explore, and the earth too, because they might be hiding more lands, more seas, more trees, more snow, more sand. In school, everything that we're taught is a lie. And lately it's making me crazy, I gotta know why.
Merry Christmas, y'all. Be prepared. Peace.